Yeah, that was good.
Okay.
That was really good. Good job.
Killed
That
it.
was good. Okay.
Hi, this is Ruth.
Hey, I'm Ranger.
Welcome to the next episode of R&R. Today we're going to be talking about placing your t-shirt orders.
Yeah, what I want to do today is talk about the barrier to ordering shirts. I think that when I go back to thinking about before I knew anything about screen printing, didn't know how it worked, and I had another small business, I remember needing to get shirts, and first of all, I was intimidated by the whole process and thought that it required a whole lot of prep work on my end, which is good because I was probably very prepared for the local print shop by giving them all the artwork files in the right format and the shirt I wanted beforehand, and kind of had everything figured out. Mm-hmm. And what I think would be important for our customers to know is if that's necessary, and if it's not, what is necessary for getting started with a project. So Ruth, you deal with people every day, probably coming from every direction and every level of preparedness. So what do you think as far as what's an ideal customer for you, and what is necessary or not necessary whenever somebody's placing an order?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is really ideal when people do have all their stuff prepared. Like, that's very nice for me. But I do think sometimes when you've worked really hard to prepare your order, you can become kind of precious about it, and you don't want the printer to have any leeway, and that can be an obstacle. But really, I don't have to have anything other than an idea and a general feeling of what you want. I can help you find the shirt, I can help you get your design ready, I can help you pick ink colors. So it's really, it could be anywhere in between. My ideal is definitely always someone who has a pretty specific design, or at least has their artwork ready, but that's definitely not necessary. But you can come to me in the morning, and if I have a designer available, we could have an invoice ready by the end of the day. Mm-hmm.
So, okay, let's just say, so as far as placing an order, I know some people would want to come and say, well, what's going to make my price go up or down, or how do I get this in at certain price points? So what would you say to a customer who's price conscious, but wants something, let's say, that people are going to want to wear? And that's a lot of times what I'll say is, hey, don't skip the $1 or $1.50 extra per shirt to cut the cost on a shirt that somebody's going to want to grab for every time it's clean versus something they're going to throw in the closet and never want to wear.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely I think some places going with the budget shirt really makes sense for them. Getting a Gildan when you're a school and your kid's only going to wear the shirt for one grade or something like that. It really makes sense to budget and have few ink colors. But if you're a brand and you're wanting to establish we're cool, or advertise your company on a cool shirt, it's worth spending a little bit of extra money. And people will pay extra money. Mm-hmm. People will pay $30 or $40 for a t-shirt if it's cool enough.
Yep.
And I don't think people realize that. I think people are in the mindset that shirts should always cost $20 for your small business. And I really don't think that's true anymore.
I agree. The other cool thing that we've seen is so many brands now, whether it's M&O or Tooltex or even Gildan, they're competing with themselves for creating budget shirts that are competing with your Bella Canvas, Next Level, Alternative Apparel, American Apparel, where now you may be within $1 of the most basic shirt, and for $1 more, you're getting something that's pretty close to a fashionable tee. So I think that the space of the blank space has become much more competitive, and plus we're seeing just trends change. So now we're getting some brands that are coming in saying, well, we actually want a boxy, heavyweight Gildan tee, and so there's a space for that too. So and I think that's the great thing about you, Ruth, is you're able to navigate with the customer and give them all those options. So that's another, I think, cool thing about Norman Roscoe is we came from being a customer first before we were a print shop, so we know how difficult people can think it is to order a shirt, and so we're here to hold their hand the entire way and give them our opinion, give them options, and tell them trends that are happening and everything in between.
I think really the main thing I want the customer to know is what type of person's wearing their shirt. And then from there, it answers a whole bunch of questions. Like
True.
what type of shirt to use, like how expensive it should be, how many colors it needs to be. Like, does it need to be more of a fashion tee, or is it just like something you want all of your volunteers to match that day? And so I think that's probably actually the main thing people need to know is just who's going to wear the shirt. And that helps determine like your sizing breakdown, stuff like that. So
True. Okay. So you just made me think of something while you were saying that. So let's say we have had a lot of people in the past year come to us not knowing who's going to order, not knowing how many people are going to order, what sizes. So we've started to suggest to certain customers pre-sales.
yeah.
So what do you think about someone that wants to come do a pre-sale? Just from your opinion, is it annoying? Is it good? Is it bad? What do you think about that aspect? And people that are watching this that might want to do it, what would you say to them or warn them about or whatever?
Yeah, I think the main thing with the pre-sale is you need to be sure that people are going to place orders, because if they don't place orders, we do require you to order a certain amount, and that amount kind of depends on how complicated your shirt is. But if we run a pre-sale, we will do all the order fulfillment, we'll package it, we'll take the money, and if you want to charge more so that like you make a profit off of it, we'll tell you our costs versus the customer's costs, and you can make a little bit of money off of pre-sale without really having to do anything, which is really great for like bands. Like a lot of schools do it for like PTA, stuff like that. So it's a really cool thing that we offer. I think really the only risk that's like you're taking on by doing a pre-sale is like nobody orders the shirts and you need to order the shirts, like,
Right.
because we're not going to print one t-shirt from a pre-sale,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, other than that, I think pre-sales are like, it eliminates a lot of the anxieties that people have about like not having like a ton of overages after they place a bulk order. And I think it like streamlines it for the customer too, because you're not like going to this one person and they're like, well, will you sign up for this pre-sale? And
Right.
then like you forget you've ordered the shirt like 6 months later.
Yep.
So I think that's good.
Yep. I from my end, I think pre-sales have been a really cool thing for customers, and that's just one of the things that's great about technology now is you couldn't do that maybe 10 years ago, but with things like Shopify or other apps you're able to use, they're so easy to build a custom platform for a customer and have a unique URL for that customer where, let's say we're doing it for Sam Houston Elementary. You could go normanroscoe.com/Sam Houston, and every parent could see the same shirt, order it, know that they've got it locked in for their kid, put the kid's name in on the order, get delivered to the school. It is a great option for certain situations, but like you said, sometimes it doesn't work, and you really need the person that's doing the sale to be in person with their end customer, and I totally get that as well.
And some people really prefer to like touch and see a shirt
Yes.
before they order it. Like if you're a coffee shop or something, I probably wouldn't recommend doing a pre-sale. It's like, it makes way more sense for like a guaranteed buyer group kind of. Like,
Yes.
like teachers are always going to sell shirts to their class. Or camps are always going to sell X number of shirts for their, you know.
Yeah, and I think in what you're saying, I completely agree. In that if it's a retail shirt, a pre-sale doesn't make as much sense. But if it's for a cause, it can make a lot of sense. Like let's say, hey, this coffee shop wants to be giving a portion of what they're selling to a certain cause that's close to them. Well, then maybe that's going to go more of a viral thing where other people are going to share that cause. And that might be a good opportunity for a pre-sale. But like you said, if it's just your standard logo shirt for the company, yeah, you're going to be probably better off if it's somebody coming in that's already shopping with you and they'll see it there in your store and maybe add it on as a purchase.
It's like an impulse buy. thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So another thing I wanted to talk to you about was shirt options, because sometimes we'll see a customer's eyes will kind of glaze over as you start talking about cotton, polycotton, CVC, tri-blend, ring spun,
Garment dye,
all the different things that to the customer, they're thinking, oh man, there must be a huge difference between all those. And whereas there is a difference, if a customer's coming to you saying, I don't know what I want, I just want a basic shirt, what would you say to them about that?
If they want a more fitted look, I'd give them a Bella Canvas 3001, or if they want to blend, a 3001 CVC. For more like a boxier look, I'd probably put them in a Next Level 3600 or a 6210 because the Next Level fits a little looser. I feel like it's more flattering sometimes. And I think it just depends on which group of people it is. Like I can normally get a vibe of what they're gonna like more.
Yeah.
And I try not to share too much about what options are available with people because it's super overwhelming. And if you haven't seen those shirts, it's hard to know the difference. So normally if I can help steer you towards something, I think that'll work. That's what I do.
And sometimes it could be as easy as saying, hey, go to your closet and look at your favorite shirt and tell me what the contents
Take a
of it.
picture of it and send it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we could probably get pretty close just based on that.
Exactly.
Yeah. What else do you think would be important for a potential customer or somebody who is on the fence about getting custom shirts made?
I think a lot of people are really anxious that they're going to get a shirt that feels like it was made like at the fair. Like I think that's most people's interaction with like custom shirts is like this really thick, plasticky feeling. And at Norman Roscoe, like we use a lot of water-based ink, we use a lot of discharge. We try as hard as we can to like make the shirt soft. Even when we're using Plastisol, I feel like we use as few hits as possible. And I think that a lot of people get worried that they're gonna get like an inferior product. And I mean, we're not the cheapest print shop in the world. And so we do everything we can to give you a product that's like really high quality. And I think that people get nervous that the cost is going to be not comparable to the product.
Yep.
And I don't think that's almost ever the case.
Yep.
And if it is the case, we always make it right. So I think
You're
that's,
right.
Yeah.
And to your point, like, you know, Ruth, you're good about every morning we meet as a shop before we do any job for the day, talking about the jobs we're going to do for that day, talking about any potential hiccups, anything that could be troublesome. And we talk it through at that point and say, what's going to work best for this job? Is Plastisol going to be our best bet? Is water-based? Is discharge printing? And these print methods, this will probably be another good episode for us to talk about print methods and different inks. And that's a great thing we can get into next time we do one of these talks. But, you know, when we had a rep come in one time talking about water-based ink, and he asked if we're an all water-based shop. And I think some shops do put their hat on, hey, we are an all this shop or an all that shop. And I've learned from our own experience with printing that not every customer wants the same thing. And so we're not an all one thing shop. Sometimes Plastisol
Is the best
for that job. Sometimes water-based is, sometimes discharges. It really depends on what the customer's expectations are and what's going to react best to that shirt, given the detail of the artwork, given the fabric content, all the different things that go into it. Certain materials work best for that canvas.
Yeah, and I think we're really intuitive about our customers, and without getting them involved in that, we can be like, hey, this shop, it has to be discharge, or this shop, they're gonna want their colors to be really vibrant, and it has to be Plastisol. And so I think that eliminating like the burden of knowing that from the customer is really helpful, and something that not every shop does. Like a lot of shops will just print it the easiest way every time.
Yep.
So.
It's very true. Well, that's great. I hope that's been helpful for all of you watching. If you're on the fence about doing a shirt job, just reach out to us. Let us know what you're thinking. If it's not the right time or you're not ready to place an order, we'll let you know, hey, we don't think you're quite ready, or your branding's not up to what you think it should be, or there's a lot of things that go into it. But for the most part, I think people would be surprised at how easy it is and how quickly you can go from general concept to having an order in place. So if you have any questions or you want to take this conversation further, Ruth can be reached at ruth@normanroscoe.com. You can reach out with any questions or just say, hey, I like this episode. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you the next time.